In her intoxicated state, Amaka found herself confessing, "I'm almost 30 and I have never ever done this. I've held on to something that no one else cared about. I'm a virgin, you know." Obina's eyes widened slightly, clearly taken aback by her admission. A virgin at 30? Years ago, on a warm evening in the quiet town where they grew up, three young girls, Amaka, Ngozi, and Chioma, sat together under the wide star-filled sky, sharing secrets and dreams. They had been friends since childhood, inseparable through school, family events, and countless sleepovers. That night, they decided to make a promise that would forever change the way they saw themselves and each other. The idea came from Amaka, who was always the most serious and spiritual of them all. She believed in true love and saving herself for one man who would be her husband. She told her friends, "I think it would be special if we all made a promise to stay pure until marriage. Imagine how beautiful it would be to give ourselves to our husbands, knowing we waited." Her eyes shone with innocence and excitement. Ngozi and Chioma exchanged glances. They respected Amaka's belief, but they were also curious about love and relationships. Yet, in that moment, the idea of making a promise together, one that would bind them through life's ups and downs, felt comforting. They were young, innocent, and eager to hold on to their friendship no matter what. Ngozi laughed, nudging Chioma. "Well, Chioma, looks like we are in this together. No turning back now." Chioma giggled, pretending to be reluctant, but clearly happy to join in. "Fine, but if some Prince Charming sweeps me off my feet before then, I'll hold you both responsible." The three friends linked their pinky fingers, and under the stars, they made a pact of purity, a promise to remain virgins until marriage. They believed that this pact would be the ultimate sign of respect for themselves and each other, a commitment to love themselves first before giving that love to someone else. From that moment on, the pact became part of who they were, a secret they held close to their hearts and a bond that felt unbreakable. As the years passed and they grew into young women, they faced the same pressures and temptations as anyone else. The world around them began to change. They watched as friends from school got into relationships, some ending in heartbreak and others in marriage. They saw the faces of their classmates grow older, some with the glow of young love, others with the sadness of broken promises. The idea of love became more real, more complex, and at times more confusing. Amaka, with her soft-spoken wisdom, remained steadfast in the pact, convinced that her commitment was not only for herself but for her future husband. She believed that true love would find her and that waiting would make it all the more special. She often reassured Ngozi and Chioma, reminding them of the beauty of the promise they had made. "It's not just about waiting," she would say. "It's about knowing our worth, about loving ourselves before we let anyone else in." Ngozi, on the other hand, found herself struggling more than she had anticipated. She was vibrant and charming, with a smile that drew people in. Many men noticed her, and as she began dating casually, she felt the weight of the promise they had made. She loved the thrill of attention and the excitement of romance, but each time she felt herself getting close to someone, she would remember the pact and pull back, feeling both proud and burdened by her loyalty to her friends. Chioma, known for her boldness and playful spirit, found it even harder to stick to the pact. She was often caught between wanting to uphold the promise and her own curiosity about love and intimacy. Over the years, she developed her own unique charm and style, attracting admirers effortlessly. But each time she considered letting her guard down, she would hear Amaka's voice in her mind, reminding her of the purity and the beauty they had committed to. As they reached their late 20s, The pressures mounted. Their friends were getting married, starting families, and building their lives, while three of them remained single, bound by a promise they had made in their youth while waiting for the Mr. Perfect. The world around them had changed, but they clung to the vow even as it felt heavier with each passing year. One evening, the three friends gathered in Amaka's living room. The topic of relationships and marriage came up. As it often did, Ngozi sighed, looking at her friends. Do you ever wonder if we are being too hard on ourselves? She asked. Sometimes I feel like we are the only ones left holding on to this archaic mentality. Chioma laughed, her tone light but her eyes thoughtful. Speak for yourself, Ngozi. I still believe there is a Prince Charming out there who will appreciate that I waited. Amaka smiled, feeling a mix of pride and worry for her friends. It's not about anyone else appreciating it. It's about us valuing ourselves. If we start doubting now, everything we've stood for will mean nothing. Despite her words, even Amaka couldn't deny the loneliness that sometimes crept in, the longing to find intimacy, to find someone who would understand and love her deeply. She looked at Ngozi and Chioma, wondering if they too secretly felt the same ache. But none of them said it aloud, choosing instead to stay strong for each other, holding on to the promise that had once felt like a blessing but was now beginning to feel like a burden. As they left that night, each of them felt the weight of their unspoken doubt. The purity pact had become a silent pressure, a reminder of who they used to be and who they thought they still wanted to be. As time went on, the purity pact that had once been a source of strength and unity for the three friends began to fade quietly into the background. Each woman faced her own struggles and desires, yet no one dared to speak of them aloud. For Ngozi, it began subtly. Her relationship with Emeka had grown serious, and with each passing day, she felt her love for him deepen. Emeka was a kind, thoughtful man, and he cherished her in a way that made her feel truly special. Initially, Ngozi restricted any temptation to go beyond the boundaries set by their youthful promise, but Emeka's patience, his understanding, and his genuine love for her began to make the pact feel like an unnecessary weight. One evening, after a quiet dinner date, Emeka held her hand gently and said, Ngozi, I want to be with you completely. I don't want there to be anything between us, but I also respect you, and I will wait as long as you need me to. His words were soft, and his gaze filled with sincerity. Ngozi felt her heart race. She loved Emeka deeply, and in that moment, the pact felt like a distant memory, a choice she had made as a young girl who knew nothing about the kind of love she now shared with him. She looked into his eyes and after a long pause, whispered, I love you too, Amaka. From that moment, Ngozi allowed herself to break free from the promise. It wasn't a decision she made lightly, and a part of her felt a twinge of guilt, but she convinced herself that what she had with Emeka was different. It was true love. She resolved to keep her choice a secret, fearing that Amaka would never understand. Amaka had always been the most devoted to the pact, the one who held them all together in their commitment. Ngozi worried that admitting her change of heart would not only hurt her friends, but might even break their bond. Meanwhile, Chima found herself in a similar predicament. Known for her adventurous spirit, she had always been the one to push boundaries, though she had honored the pact throughout her 20s. But when she met Jude, a close friend of Emeka's, everything changed. Jude was charming and exciting, with an energy that Chioma found hard to resist. Their friendship quickly blossomed into something more, and Chioma found herself drawn to him in a way she hadn't even anticipated. One evening, after a particularly lively outing, June leaned in close and kissed Chioma. Chioma hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the promise she had made. But as her heart raced with excitement, she let herself give in, allowing the passion between them to flourish. She told herself it was just a moment of freedom, that it didn't mean she was abandoning the pact entirely. But one moment turned into another, and soon she and Jude had crossed the line that she had vowed never to cross. Like Ngozi, Chima kept her secret buried deep. She couldn't imagine the disappointment on Amaka's face if she ever found out. Amaka was the last of them, still fully committed, and Chima respected her friend's dedication. She didn't want to be the one to break Amaka's heart by revealing that she too had stepped away from their shared vow. Whenever the three friends gathered, Ngozi and Chima would avoid the subject of their pact, silently agreeing not to bring it up. They maintained their usual laughter, shared their stories about work, and chatted about their lives as if everything was the same. But underneath the surface, the secret simmered, creating a quiet tension that neither dared to address. Amaka was known for her resilience and deep-rooted beliefs. She took the purity pact so seriously, not just as a promise to her friends, but as a testament to her own values. Whenever her family asked her why she was still single, she would smile and say, "I'm waiting for the right one who would wait with me until we are married." Her siblings would sometimes tease her, calling her the saint, but Amaka didn't mind. She wore their teasing as a badge of honor. To her, it meant she was sticking to what she believed in, no matter how old-fashioned it seemed to everyone else. As the years went by, Amaka noticed small changes in her friends, especially as they started dating more seriously. Occasionally, Chioma and Ngozi would make vague comments or brush off the topic whenever the pact was mentioned, but Amaka, confident in their friendship, dismissed these as normal shifts in conversations. She trusted them deeply, never imagining that they could have strayed from their promises. With her 30th birthday approaching, Amaka was the last of her friends who hadn't been in a serious relationship, but she didn't feel pressured. She was content, grounded in her belief and her values, and unbothered by the passing years. She firmly believed her friends felt the same way, and was even proud of them for holding on to the commitment they had all made together. As Ngozi's wedding day neared, Amaka took it upon herself to organize a memorable bachelorette party. She wanted to make the night special, a celebration of not only Ngozi's upcoming wedding, but also the enduring friendship they had shared over the years. She rented a cozy lounge and decorated it with flowers, candles and soft lights, creating an intimate and celebratory atmosphere. Friends from around Ngozi's life gathered at the party, including Emeka's friends. Jude was there too, much to Chioma's excitement and nervousness. The evening was filled with laughter, dancing, and toasts to the bride-to-be. Everyone was relaxed, caught up in the joy of the moment. As the night went on, Amaka felt an overwhelming sense of pride in her friendship with Ngozi and Chioma. She picked up her glass, tapped it with a spoon, and called everyone's attention. She had prepared a toast that she had hoped would capture the essence of their friendship. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice warm and filled with emotion. "Tonight we are here to celebrate Ngozi, who is about to start a new chapter in her life. But there is something else I want to celebrate." She looked around, smiling at Ngozi and Chioma, who were both seated nearby. "Years ago, the three of us made a purity pact. We promised to stay true to ourselves and wait until marriage. It was our way of supporting each other and honoring what we believed in." Amaka's words filled the room, and a hush settled over the guests. Emeka, sitting across the room, looked surprised. He glanced at Ngozi with a confused expression, as if trying to process what Amaka had just said. Breaking the silence, he cleared his throat and blurted out, "Wait, what's purity pact?" Ngozi's face went pale, and she stammered, "Emeka, it was a long time ago. I didn't think it mattered now." Emeka's brows furrowed as he leaned forward, his tone laced with shock and disbelief. "Ngozi, we've been together for 2 years now. You've never mentioned any purity pact." Jude, sensing the tension in the room, looking at Chioma with a nervous chuckle, added to the surprise. Well, if we are all confessing here, Chioma never told me about any pact either. Chioma's face flushed and she avoided Amaka's gaze, her cheeks growing redder by the second. The room fell into an awkward silence as Amaka's eyes moved between her friends. Her face a mix of confusion and betrayal. She had always believed they were in this together, that they had all kept the promise they made to each other. You, you both broke the pact. Amaka's voice was barely a whisper, her heart breaking as she looked at the friends she had trusted so completely. You made me believe we were all in this together, that we had something special. Ngozi and Chioma looked down, their expressions filled with guilt and shame. Neither of them could meet her eyes, both painfully aware of the betrayal she felt. Without another word, Amaka set down her glass, her face clouded with hurt. Unable to stay any longer, she turned and walked out of the party, leaving behind her friends and a room of guests and stunned silence. The betrayal from her friends cut so deep, it left Amaka feeling like the last of her kind in a world that had moved on without her. As she sat alone in her apartment, the silence was deafening. Her mind kept replaying the scene at the bachelorette, the shock on Emeka's face, the uneasy confession from Jude, and the shame-filled glances from Ngozi and Chioma. She felt like a fool, as if her years of holding on to their promise had meant nothing. Her 30th birthday was just around the corner, a milestone that she had always imagined celebrating with pride and joy. Yet now, the thought of her birthday only brought bitterness. She had spent all these years holding on to a promise that had been broken behind her back. She couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness and betrayal. For the first time, she questioned her beliefs and wondered if she had wasted her youth on a pact that she only took seriously. In a moment of impulsive defiance, Amaka decided she needed to get out of her apartment. She dressed up in a sleek fitted dress that hugged her curves and accentuated her natural beauty. She looked at herself in the mirror, taking in the woman she had become, strong, independent, but with walls that had been built on trust and promises now crumbling. Without informing anyone, she left her apartment and headed to a club on the other side of town. It was a lively place with pulsing music, flashing lights, and a crowd of people lost in their own worlds. Amaka found herself blending into the scene, allowing the loud music and chaotic atmosphere to drown out her thoughts. She ordered a drink, then another, letting the alcohol numb the sharp ache in her heart. As she moved onto the dance floor, swaying to the rhythm, she let go of her worries, her values, and everything she held so tightly. She wanted to forget, even if just for a night. And in that moment, she was no longer Amaka the last virgin, but just a woman looking for freedom from her past. As she danced, she felt someone's eyes on her. She turned to find a tall, strikingly handsome man watching her with a warm smile. His name was Obinna, and there was something charming about him that drew her in. He moved closer and they began to talk over loud music, laughing as they shouted to hear each other. His words were smooth, his eyes attentive, and for the first time in a long time, Amaka felt seen in a way that had nothing to do with her past or her pact. They talked for hours, moving from the dance floor to a quieter corner of the club. She told him about her job, her love for music, and her dreams. Obinna listened intently, never pressing her for details, and she found herself relaxing more than she had in years. With each passing moment, her guard slipped a little more. She didn't mention the pact, her friends, or the betrayal she had just experienced. Tonight, she was just Amaka, a woman celebrating life. By the end of the night, she felt bold, almost daring. Her head was buzzing, both from the alcohol and the feeling of liberation. When Obinna offered to take her back to his place, she didn't hesitate. She felt an overwhelming urge to break free from the chains of the past, to leave behind the Amaka that she had been holding on to for so long. As they reached Obina's apartment, he noticed a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. She seemed torn. He gently led her to the couch, offering her a glass of water to sober up a bit. They continued talking, laughing, and sharing pieces of themselves. In her intoxicated state, Amaka found herself confessing, "I'm almost 30, and I have never ever done this. I've held on to something that no one else cared about. I'm a virgin, you know. I kept waiting, thinking it mattered, but tonight I really don't care anymore." Her words hung in the air, a raw confession that had even surprised herself. She looked down, feeling vulnerable and exposed, unsure of how Obina would react. Obina's eyes widened slightly, clearly taken aback by her admission. "A virgin at 30, he repeated, his tone a mixture of surprise and respect. Amaka nodded, her fingers fiddling nervously with the edge of her dress. "My friends and I, we made a pact. We were going to wait until marriage, but it didn't mean anything to them in the end. I'm the only one who kept it." She let out a bitter laugh. "All this time, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was just lonely and alone." Obina moved closer, his gaze gentle and steady. "Amaka, just because they didn't keep their promise doesn't mean your choice was foolish. If it was something important to you, then it was worth something." She looked up at him, her eyes filling with unshed tears. "I've been holding on to this idea of purity, but tonight, I just feel foolish. Maybe it was all for nothing." Obina reached out, placing his hands over hers in a reassuring gesture. "You shouldn't do this just because you feel betrayed. Don't let someone else's choice define yours. If you want to let go of the past, that's fine, but make sure it's for you and not because you feel you have to prove something." His words pierced through her drunken haze, grounding her. For a moment, the weight of her hurt and confusion lifted, replaced by a calm she hadn't felt in a long time. Amaka took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with sadness. She wasn't sure what she had expected from the night, but this wasn't it, and yet somehow it felt right. They continued talking, their conversation drifting from her confession to their lives and struggles. Obina shared his own experiences with societal expectations, the weight of being constantly judged by what others thought he should be. His openness put her at ease, and she found herself talking freely without the fear of judgment she often felt around others. As the night grew darker, Amaka's eyelids grew heavy, and she found herself nodding off on the couch. She felt Obina's genuine touch on her shoulder as he draped a blanket over her. "Get some rest," he whispered softly. "I'll be here in the morning." When Amaka's eyes fluttered open the next morning, she was surprised to find herself lying on a comfortable couch, a blanket draped over her. Her head ached slightly from the night before, but as she looked around, memories of her evening with Obina came rushing back. She sat up, noticing she was fully dressed, and a wave of relief washed over her. Just then, Obina entered, carrying a cup of tea. He gave her a warm smile as he approached. "Good morning," he greeted softly, handing her the tea. "Thought you might need this." Amaka blushed, feeling a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. She took the cup, her hands wrapping around its warmth. "Thank you for everything, for listening, for being kind, and for not. Obina chuckled gently. "You were vulnerable, Amaka. I didn't think it would be right. Sometimes it's better to wait until things feel true." His sincerity struck her, and she looked at him with a newfound respect. As he drove her home, they spoke quietly, the morning sun casting a gentle glow over them. Amaka couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. For so long, she had felt weighed down by her pact, and the sense of betrayal that had led her to question everything. But now, Sitting beside Obina, she felt a budding hope, a sense that maybe there were people in the world who saw her for who she truly was. When they arrived at her house, Obina turned to her, his gaze steady. "Take care of yourself, Amaka, and don't let anyone make you doubt your worth," he said with a gentle smile. As she watched him drive away, she realized that his words and actions had left a deep impression on her heart. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments of introspection for Amaka. She found herself thinking about Obina often, his kindness, his understanding, and the way he had treated her with respect. They kept in touch, exchanging messages and phone calls that slowly turned into casual meets-up. They met for coffee on rainy afternoon, shared a quiet dinner at a small restaurant, and took walks together, talking about life, dreams, and all the little things that made them who they were. Their connection deepened with each encounter. Amaka felt herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't before, telling him stories of her childhood, her fears, and her dreams of love. With Obina, she found a safe space to be herself again, free from judgment and expectation. He, in turn, shared his own struggles, his own disappointments, and his own dreams, and Amaka felt herself drawn to his quiet strength. One evening, as they sat on the park bench, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Obina turned to her and asked, "You know, Amaka, I admire your strength, the way you hold on to your values. It's rare and it's beautiful." Amaka felt a warmth in her chest at his words. She looked down easily, smiling shyly. "It hasn't been easy, but meeting you has shown me that maybe I wasn't wrong to hold on to those beliefs." Meanwhile, her relationship with Ngozi and Chioma were shifting. Both of her friends had reached out, apologizing for breaking their pact without telling her. They explained their struggles and the reason behind their decisions, seeking to mend the bonds they had shared. Although Amaka listened and accepted their apologies, she felt something change within her. She realized that she could forgive them. The trust they had once shared was fractured. The Purity Pact had been their way of staying close, holding on to something they all believed in. But now, Amaka saw that friendships didn't need pact to survive. They needed honesty and understanding. She could forgive her friends, but she had also grown in ways that made her say things differently. Obina became her anchor through these changes, offering her advice, humor, and warmth when she needed it most. Their time together felt effortless, and before long, Amaka realized that her heart had begun to open up to him in ways that she hadn't expected. One night, as they shared a quiet dinner at her place, Amaka felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Obina," she said, her voice soft, "for being here, for everything." Obina took her hand, his eyes warm and steady. "Amaka, being with you, it's been one of the best things that has happened to me. You are an incredible woman." Their connection blossomed, grounded in mutual respect, and a love that grew quietly, day by day. Weeks went by, and with each passing day, Amaka's love for Obina deepened. On the evening of her birthday, Obina invited her out for a special dinner. The restaurant was cozy, with soft music playing in the background and candlelight casting a warm glow over the table. Amaka couldn't help but feel a little nervous, sensing that tonight might be different. After they finished their meal, Obina took her hand, his gaze intense, yet filled with warmth. "Amaka," he began, "meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. You've shown me what it means to love deeply, to care without limits. You are the strongest, most beautiful woman I know, and being with you has changed my life in ways I can't describe." Amaka felt her heart pounding as she continued, "I love you, Amaka. I want to be with you, not just for now, but for always. I would be honored if you would let me be a part of your life." Tears filled Amaka's eyes as she looked into his, feeling a joy she had never known. She squeezed his hand, her voice trembling with emotion. Obina, I love you too. I never thought I could feel this complete, this understood, this loved. With you, I feel like I can finally be myself. In that moment, they both knew their love was real, built on respect, trust, and understanding. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone or living up to expectations. It was a love born out of seeing each other's true selves and accepting one another, flaws and all. As Amaka's relationship with Obina blossomed, she felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. But there was still one thing left to mend: her friendship with Ngozi and Chioma. She realized that while they had hurt her, their friendship was a significant part of her life and she wanted to find more closure. One Sunday afternoon, Amaka invited Ngozi and Chioma over for tea. The atmosphere was initially tense, each of them unsure of how to bridge the distance that had grown between them. After a few moments of silence, Amaka took a deep breath and spoke up. I've missed the both of you, she said. I know things got complicated between us, and I won't lie, it hurts to find out that our pact didn't mean the same to all of us. But I've also learned that friendship is about more than promises. It's about being there for each other even when we make mistakes. Chioma and Ngozi exchanged a look, their faces filled with regret but relief. Amaka, we are sorry, Ngozi said, her voice thick with emotions. We didn't mean to hurt you. We should have been honest with you instead of pretending we were still committed. Chioma nodded, adding, we were wrong, Amaka. We know that now. We let our own choices come between us, and we are very sorry for that. With tears in Amaka's eyes, Amaka hugged them, and for the first time in a long while, they laughed together, sharing stories and reliving memories of their younger years. The friendship wasn't exactly the same, but they had found a new, more honest bond. Amaka's journey had taught her that her worth wasn't defined by a pact or society's standards. She was free to make her own choices, to define love and friendship on her own terms. With Obina by her side, she knew she had found a love rooted in respect and trust, a love that allowed her to be her true self. As they sipped their tea, Amaka felt an overwhelming sense of contentment. She looked around the room, at her friends, and the thought of Obina, realizing that she had finally found her version of happiness. She had made peace with her past and embraced the future filled with love, friendship, and self-acceptance. Amaka and Obina's wedding was a dream come true. The ceremony was held in a beautiful garden, surrounded by friends and family, and a sea of flowers that filled the air with soft fragrance. Amaka looked radiant in her gown as she walked down the aisle, her heart swelled with joy and gratitude. Standing by her side as bridesmaids were Ngozi and Chioma, their friendships rekindled and their bonds stronger than ever. As she exchanged vows with Obina, Amaka felt a profound sense of peace. This was what she had waited for, what she had hoped for in her moments of doubt. She held Obina's hands, her voice trembling as she said her vows, promising to love him with all her heart for all her days. Obina's gaze was filled with love and devotion, and when he sipped the ring into her finger, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The reception was so lively, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. As Amaka looked around, she saw the faces of those she loved most, all gathered to celebrate this new chapter in her life. Her heart was overflowed with happiness, and the joy of the day left her feeling so blessed. After the celebration, she and Obina left for their honeymoon in a quiet getaway on a beautiful island. It was a time for just the two of them, away from the world, where they could start their life together in privacy and peace. That first night, after years of waiting, Amaka finally allowed herself to let go. She was no longer burdened by the weight of her past or the broken promises. In Obina's arms, she felt safe, cherished and loved. Their first night together was tender and beautiful, and she treasured every moment. It was an experience filled with love, patience, and warmth, something she would hold dear to her heart forever. Their honeymoon was filled with laughter, late night conversations, and the sweet intimacy that only true love could bring. For Amaka, it felt like a beautiful beginning, a fresh start with a man who had proven his love time and time again. As they returned home, Amaka felt ready to embrace this new life. She was no longer bound by expectations of others. She had found her place in the world, standing beside a man who loved her deeply, with friends who had stood by her through thick and thin. The story of Amaka teaches that true love and happiness come when we stay true to ourselves, even when life is filled with challenges and disappointments. It shows that resilience, patience, and self worth are essential as they lead us to the relationships and happiness we truly deserve. Friendships, while tested by personal choices and misunderstandings, can be healed with honesty and forgiveness. Amaka's journey reminds us that our worth isn't defined by societal expectations or past mistakes, but by the love, respect, and strength we cultivate within ourselves. In the end, genuine love and happiness are found when we embrace our values and remain open to love that respects and cherishes us for who we truly are. Thank you so much for watching this fantastic story on African Stories by Tiana. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing stories. See you next time.